was a very humbling previous presentation, and I think from my point of view personally, and maybe for those of us who are working on vector control, it really is highly motivational and makes us think about what we're trying to do to take it very seriously. I'm going to swing the spectrum right back to the other end, which is the vector end, and just a very short presentation around a part of a piece of work that we're doing in IVCC. Now, I've got a presentation later today which will explain the broad context of IVCC and what we're looking to do. But this is just a small piece of work, and it's relevant to this workshop. So I agree with James that I should expose this. And it's a specific study that we have done around a survey to try to establish what are the actual vector control gaps, generally speaking, in control programs. Because with new innovations coming through, there are a lot of new innovations, but we need to make sure that those are targeted against what are the actual problems that the control programs are experiencing, the specific problems, and try to drill down what is the exact nature of the solution that we're trying to, the gap that we're trying to close, and the solution that we're trying to deliver. So just three brief slides on this short piece of work in which we went out to some of the international research and control program community, and this just gives some parameters around it, and we asked people to score how they felt about a list of 21 potential gaps in the capabilities of control programs controlling Aedes-borne diseases from the vector perspective, how they would rate those gaps in terms of importance. And those 21 gaps were drawn from literature and various sources as potentials, and we needed to try to see if we could rank those. So we asked people corresponding to this survey to classify them into, this is a critical gap, all the way down to being really it's not a gap in control programs in any meaningful way. And we had these 25 respondents and 8 based out of international organizations. We had a big geographic spectrum. Most people were with an international perspective. So we're talking about the likes of the Gates Foundation, the Centers for Disease Control in the US, but with an international remit. The US Army, very influential, and sponsoring various research. Research organizations where we've got researchers who have done considerable amount of field work on the Aedes control problem. 6 control program managers, and we didn't really focus on industry with the solutions. We tried to focus more on the market side, and 3 other. And you can see the geographical split. So I'll show you the rankings in a moment. There were some additional mentions of particular factors which people felt weren't included in this survey that were important. So within it, embedded really, is the whole issue of effective community participation, but 5, in fact, of the respondents brought that out as a critical thing that should be separated out. Effective community participation in whatever the solution is that you're proposing. Then I guess Andy will be pleased to see that we've got, well, you don't normally call it self-limiting gene technology, but I couldn't fit that into the space there, so I've put the old terminology of riddle, Wolbachia or sterile insect technique was mentioned, and then the epidemiology impact of interventions and knowledge about that was mentioned, and training as well. So quickly flipping on, if I can find the right controller. Yeah, so I've just got 2 more slides, and this is sort of like from reverse importance, one of these game show things where you don't start off with the winner, start off with the least important. So it's ranked. See, the ranking goes down from 11 to 21. So this is the bottom half, if you like. And I've put the average score there, but if you remember back to the last slide, 1 was a critical importance, 2 was an important problem, and 3 was of modest importance, and 4 was a minor, and 5 was a no gap, really. And what our group of 25 respondents are telling us is that there's a tremendous number, in fact, sort of 17 important gaps. So there's a number of gaps in control programs which are really important ones to try to close. And then you come down to some more modest gaps. And on the right-hand side, we've just picked out the 6 control programs and what their responses were, which varied a little bit, interestingly, to the general respondents who've been involved in research and so on, to see what the actual sort of end operators thought about it. The ranking is interesting in that there's some factors down at the bottom which may be around some of the larval control products, where in general it was not felt that there's a particular gap. We've got a pretty good armory of larval control products. And then maybe surprising, compliance with personal or household protection products, not so important. And then a whole raft of really quite important interventions, some slight differences of opinion between control programs and the general respondents there. But you can see a number of those important, all the way through from utility, lack of effective utilities, through to very specific things like having an ovicidal product. But the focus should be really on the top set. And later in the day, I will look at this set in relation to some research programs to see how they match up. But I'll just expose them now. And both the control programs and the all-respondent group identified exactly the same top 3 problems. So maybe not surprisingly, having sufficient manpower and funding for control activities came out as number 1, as a critical gap. And the way we're looking at it, we see clearly, more money is good, but maybe there's some new technologies or new interventions that could help to reduce the manpower. It's a very intensive manpower requirement that control programs have. And some of the existing new technologies will contribute to that. So sufficient manpower and funding, sufficient adult control products for resistance management came right up there as number 2. If you remember, the larval portfolio available wasn't rated as being particularly lacking, but the adult control portfolio most definitely, with issues around resistance to adulticides, not having enough options available, and needing new products to control adults. And then the sort of community participation piece comes in on number 3 with the sufficient elimination of larval habitat by householders as being very, very important. And then you can see a set of other gaps also rated as important. So there really are quite a lot of challenges here to control of the vector of Zika and these other Aedes-borne viruses. And this perhaps helps us to inform where the research priorities might be. This is just one but key factor probably in looking at research priorities. Now I guess people in the audience will have you'll have some of your own views around some of these gaps, and we might want to draw that out in discussion.